Hi everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at the game called The Birdcage 2 by Pine Studio. Now this is the successor of one of my favorite augmented reality games, The Birdcage, the first iteration of the game. I already have an editorial review of the first one, so you can head on to my blog at arcritic.com and read the first review. And as you can see, I really enjoyed playing this game. The Birdcage 2 is a puzzle game that combines elements from escape room games. It encapsulates the experience in very tight presentation, but it works incredibly well. In Birdcage 2, and I'm going to read it from the description, the story revolves around a young sorcerer who has just graduated from the School of Magic. She heard tales of the powerful wizard Alzor, so she embarked on a journey to find him. Hoping he will teach her advanced magic, she faced many obstacles, dangers, and revelations that ultimately force her to make default choices. Now, as you play, of course, the narrative will continue to be unveiled. So you finish puzzles, you unveil more narrative, and you continue on to the next chapter. In each level, as you can see here, the goal is to release those innocent magical creatures from the cage. You need to find the key and use it on the lock in order to free them. Now the game starts with a tutorial, this one, which actually explains to you some of the basics and the mechanics of the game. It's very simple. All you need to use is just touch, and you can also swipe to rotate the cage and just use touch gestures in order to interact with the puzzle elements. The game also introduced a new mechanic, which is this magic wand, which you obtain in the tutorial, and you're going to use it throughout the game. You just need to drag it onto this colorful gradient area and then draw what the game tells you to draw, and then you're going to unlock something. Now there are different types of spells. You're gonna unlock different types of spells as you progress. This one is reveal. There are freeze, fire, different types that you're gonna use throughout the game. So as you can see, I found the key, I released the bird, and that's what I need to do in every single chapter. So when I finish a certain level, the narrative continues to unveil itself. Now this new version of the game features more creatures. There are 5 creatures in total, each one for each chapter. Each chapter contains different several levels, and in order to finish the chapter, you need to, of course, solve all the levels. There are different types, as you can see, gems, red gems. There are 3 of them hidden in each chapter, and you need to find them. Some of them are very tricky to locate, but I'm sure you're gonna find them eventually. Now, after you find those 3 gems in each level, you're gonna obtain a scroll which allows you to further unveil more secrets of this magical and fantastic lore. Now it's also important to add that this version of the game, Birdcage 2, incorporates also face tracking. But just keep in mind that not all devices are supported. According to the developer, iOS devices with front-facing true-depth camera are supported, including the iPhone X, iPhone XS, iPhone X Max, iPhone XR, and iPad Pro 11-inch or iPad Pro 12.9-inch 3rd generation, and you need, of course, iOS 11 or later. Now, I wasn't able to review it because I'm using it on my iPad 9.7-inch. It's still an ARKit enabled device, but it's not the one which is compatible with the face tracking feature because it doesn't have a front depth sensing camera. Now I find the game to be designed really well in terms of AR. You see, as you see here, I'm just dragging the game, to where I wanted to position it. I actually wanted to take some really nice scenes with the gameplay itself, so I can just drag it. And of course, there's the option to increase the height of the cage itself, which is again very useful, because if you want to play in a seated position or in a standing position like I do right now, you can do it. It's very simple. You just drag it in the right to the right height and start playing. If you want to reset it, you can press the button at the bottom right corner, and then you can again move it or change the height, and it's very comfortable. Now the game is beautiful, it's stunning in my opinion. Each cage will look a bit different than the other. For each type of bird there's a different design, so you have something to expect when you are progressing through the levels. So most of the time you'll be just looking at this cage, turning it around and inspecting all those puzzles. So again, it's important that it looks good, because the observation part should be fascinating, because the game itself is based on observation and just looking around and trying to see things that you might need to interact with, and you're gonna spend some time, quite a lot of time just watching this cage, so it should look good. Now in terms of difficulty, some of the levels will be challenging. I'm telling you that right off the bat. But I reached, after I finished the first one, the two first one, which are free. The other one are paid, by the way. You can buy them, all for a price. I was actually in my room and actually played it in the standard mode, which I show you a bit later. And I find myself quite, let's say, moving quite quickly, more than I actually wanted. So I wanted it to be even more challenging than it actually was. I'm not saying that I didn't spend some time on it. Of course I spent some time on this game, but I wanted it to be more challenging, maybe have a level that is really hard, kind of an end level, like an end game where you have like 2 or 3 levels that are so hard that you're going to break your head for hours trying to solve them, and people will just talk online, on Reddit, on anything, just trying to get some hints how to solve them, and maybe it won't be solved, like maybe, I don't know, for a week or 2 after release. You know what I mean. Now another aspect of the game that I really like is, it employs mechanical puzzle. You can move elements and interact with buttons, sliders, think things, tap and obtain things. So it feels very much physical. And this part of the game, is something that really excited me, and I really enjoy playing it. Part of it because of this. So as you can see, you rotate things and even slightly open, little doors, but just sliding them, to the right or to the left. Everything was done in order to make the game feel more tangible, considering it's a virtual content, not physical. It felt very much physical. Basically, I mean, compared to what you can achieve with the limitation of the technology, I think the developer just nailed it. Now the interconnection between something virtual and the physical, making the virtual feel tangible, is very important in augmented reality in general, because you want to feel that the things that you see in front of you actually exist there in the real world. So you can clearly see the developer made sure that those touch gestures that we are used to with mobile phones and tablets are properly used in this type of game in order to create a sense of physicality. So for example, instead of just tapping things, you can just tap and guide things, some knobs and handles through a kind of a pathing, and you can also just control the amount very accurately, the amount of rotation, but just sliding slightly with your fingers, or maybe do a more prominent slide in order to rotate things faster. Now the game also borrows some of the cool spellcasting gameplay mechanics that many people really enjoy, including myself. Now you have different gestures, each one applies to different type of spell, but just keep in mind that it's not that you, for example, if you have a palette which accepts a spell, or any item that expect a spell which is supposed to be like gradient glowing one, it usually accepts just a single spell. This means that you won't stand against something and need to decide, all right, which spell I'm going to use now. No. So what the game does is there are some puzzles which they employ different types of items, and we need to decide, and all of them except, for example, a specific spell, and you need to decide which item you want to apply a spell on. And I do think that having kind of an open system for spell casting, which you need the user to decide which spell to use, might be overkill for this type of app, because it's supposed to be like a more kind of a casual experience, puzzle solving experience where you just sit, enjoy, relax, and try to solve logical puzzles. Now, I just want to add that I remember from the first one, the first game, that there were some elements, interesting elements with moving, mechanical things that grab things, stuff, and something that I didn't see here, and I kind of missed that. Let me try to see if I can bring this from a video. Just a second. All right, so this is the first game. This is what I was talking about when you control those knobs and you need to capture something, and this arm inside. I really enjoyed this part, and actually something that didn't exist in the second, doesn't exist in the second version of the game. Again, something that I would like to see maybe in the Birdcage 3. I've also noticed that the second game feels like more, the cage of, more robust, like more elements to it. Feels like more like a little castle compared to the first game where the cage appears like, like a bird cage. Let me try to compare the two just so you can see what I mean. Just take a look at this one. All right. Let's move closer a bit. All right, so let's take a look. You see those metal things, big metal things, and the puzzle elements are quite big. All right, so let's take a look back at the first game. Now this is the first game. Of course there are differences between levels, but overall you can see it's a little bit more bare bone. You know what I mean? So again, I personally love the ones in the second version. And of course there are differences and variations, depends on the level you are playing. Alright, we are back to the second game, yeah? The game we are reviewing right now. So, as you can see, the design itself of the game is quite simple, right? Just look at this. It takes place in a very small area, but it packs so much excitement in such a small area. And this is actually very good design, because you can play it in your room, even on the bed, and it doesn't take a lot of space. So in terms of, augmented reality experience, it's very accessible and comfortable. Of course, nobody stops you from just physically moving around the cage. If you like that, you can do that. But there is, the option to slide it at the bottom, at the base, in order to rotate it. So we actually can sit on the chair and just play it there without even moving. And again, for people who don't like the physical aspect of AR games, and they're just playing in their comfort of their home, just sitting on a couch, and just want to enjoy playing a relaxing and comfortable puzzler. And it's actually good for puzzle games, because most of the time what you're going to do is just observe things and spend time trying to figure out things, and just moving around, it's not something that is really beneficial for this type of game. Now this is the standard version of the game. Of course you can play it in standard mobile mode, not in augmented reality. Again, very good if you just want to just the mode that you prefer playing, or you're just playing at night and you don't, you can't just spawn scanner surface there in augmented reality. You can do this, and it works very, very well. I do have a little criticism about what this is. When I played, when you want to interact with a certain element in the game, you need to press it and then it zooms in and then you can interact with it. So that part was kind of a bit annoying because when you get out, the time it takes you to get in and out, it's kind of a very, it's about like 1.5 second loading screen. So in that aspect, I prefer the augmented reality version because you just can swipe fast and move, and rotate the cage quickly. And but again, because the game is not a fast-paced game, it's not the issue. I mean, just being picky here. But again, it works overall very, very well. So let me just demonstrate it. As you can see, I'm tapping, moving closer, and doing things. I'm interacting with this, and of course, because you're going to spend time interacting with the elements, the puzzle solving elements, it's going to take you time, so you won't really have a problem like this getting in and out. But I don't know, maybe quite doing things quite fast, and that's why I felt that I wanted to be more responsive. Actually, I do remember a part where I actually needed to look at something that appears on the other facet of the of the cage, and I need to go back and forth in order to apply something correctly, and there are 3 things that you need to do, and that's why I need to go back in, and that point I think I find it quite annoying, but overall it was an issue, so let's move on. You can see me unlocking a new spell. So as I told you, you can learn more spells and you can apply it here. I just drag the wand on this gradient area, and I do the spell, and it does what it needs to do. I won't tell you more about this, you're gonna find it while playing the game. So as I told you, when I reached the 3 other packs, and it actually went relatively quicker than I wanted it to be, and I finished quite fast. The puzzle was relatively fast. I wanted it to be more challenging, as I mentioned, but again, I enjoyed every single moment of it. So there you have it. This is the Birdcage 2. In my opinion, it's bigger and better than the first one. Again, I have my criticism and things that I would like to see, and I wanted the game to be more challenging. As a person who, can invest a lot of time in puzzle games, I wanted it to offer something kind of an end game that can have a punch, something that I can wake up tomorrow and say, okay, this day is the day that I'm going to solve this puzzle. Kind of a rank 10 puzzle, you know what I mean? Something very, very hard. Just as something as an end game, not saying that the entire game should be like this. Just something like 2 levels that are very, very, very challenging. Now, I personally don't know if developer plans to add adding more packs to this version of the game, but it would be interesting if you're gonna have kind of those very hard and very challenging puzzles, kind of an extra which you can buy, kind of a DLC for this specific game. So, and I also forgot to tell you that there is an epilogue level, but in order to unlock it, you need to obtain this 775 red gems. So make sure you pick them up as you play. Don't forget this, because then you're gonna do it again and again. Just go and try to locate those gems, get out, right? So make sure you pick up those gems as you play, and make sure you clear all the 3 of them in each stage. Yeah, so this is it. Go and download the game right now. What are you waiting for? It's an amazing, amazing augmented reality game. If you love puzzle games, or if you don't, I'm telling you, try it. You have to try it. So this is it. If you enjoyed this review, please don't forget to like and subscribe. More cool content is coming, so make sure you subscribe and press that bell button to get notified when I release new videos. Thanks again, and I see you soon on the next video. Bye bye.